Some people really don't know when to quit. This HOA Karen actually tried to shake me down for $40,000 just to move into the house I already owned. When I refused, she called her husband, the sheriff, and tried to have me arrested for trespassing. Big mistake. I'd spent 30 years dealing with criminals who thought they were untouchable. So when the sheriff showed up with backup and a smug grin, I didn't argue. I just reached for my wallet. And what happened next? Let's just say her clipboard wasn't the only thing that hit the ground. I thought retirement would be peaceful. After 30 years chasing down drug traffickers, fraudsters, and the kind of people who think laws are for other people, I figured I'd earned a quiet life. Morning coffee on the porch, a dock by the lake, neighbors who wave instead of file reports. Instead, I got Donna Wellington, the self-declared queen of Lake Vista. I'd barely finished directing the movers when I saw her storming across my lawn like she owned the ground beneath her feet. Perfectly styled hair, white pantsuit sharper than courtroom steel, and a clipboard clutched like a weapon. She didn't look like a neighbor. She looked like an audit in human form. "Stop right there," she barked, loud enough to make the movers freeze mid-lift. "Who authorized this move-in?" "Ma'am," I said, polite but firm. "I'm Daniel Rivera. I legally purchased this property last month. Everything's in order." But Karen, Donna, wasn't here for paperwork. "I'm Donna Wellington," she snapped. "President of the Lake Vista HOA for 15 years, and nobody moves in without my approval." She gestured toward the lake behind us like she personally built it with her bare hands. I glanced toward the neighboring houses. People were peeking through blinds, watching, but not coming out. No welcome wagon, just silence and fear. That was my first flag. Then came the second. She slapped a document into my hand. Fancy seals, fake legal tone, and a demand for $40,000 in entry fees. I scanned the paper with a detective's eye. Premium lake access, $18,000. Community standards, bond, $12,000. Executive security fee, $8,000. Wellington processing, $2,000. I almost laughed. "Mrs. Wellington," I said, "I've reviewed every HOA document. These fees don't exist." Her expression twisted like I'd insulted royalty. "I don't care what dusty paperwork says. This is my lake, my rules." Then she leaned in close, voice dropping to a hiss. "My husband is Sheriff Blake Wellington. He runs this county. Cross me, and you'll find out what power really looks like." There it was. The setup. The game. She wasn't just some entitled HOA president. This was an empire, and she thought I was just another pawn she could bully into paying tribute. But I've seen this before. I smiled. "Ma'am," I said calmly, "I'm not paying, and I'm moving in today, with or without your permission." She went pale, then red, then ice cold. "You'll regret this," she said, pulling out her phone. "Blake, we've got a problem at the lake." And just like that, my retirement became the most satisfying takedown of my entire career. By the next morning, the game was in full swing. It started with a soft warning. 4 tires slashed clean through. Not a random act of vandalism. These were deliberate cuts, surgical. Someone took their time. Someone wanted to make sure I wasn't going anywhere. And tucked under the windshield wiper, a cream-colored envelope, gold embossed. Inside, last warning, pay or leave. No signature, no HOA letterhead this time, just arrogance written on luxury stationery, the kind of paper you'd expect for wedding invitations, not death threats. The message was clear: bend the knee or get bled out, 1 tire at a time. By noon, city inspector arrived, clipboard in hand, grin like a man who already hated me. Anonymous tip, he said. Unpermitted modifications to the dock. I handed him every permit. County stamped, approved 6 weeks ago. He flipped through the pages like he was looking for a reason to stay. Came up empty, muttered something about clerical confusion, and walked off looking disappointed. Then came the noise complaints. First, at 6:00 p.m., patrol car pulls up, says I'm disturbing the peace. I've got a small radio playing Chopin on the porch. Officer walks around, listens for a beat, then shrugs. Sorry, sir. Must be a mistake. Second visit at 8:00, supposedly using power tools after hours. I'm hanging a picture with a manual screwdriver. The young officer actually laughed. Third complaint at 10:00 p.m. Party disturbance. I was alone, reading a paperback on the porch. By the end of the night, I wasn't angry. I was impressed. This wasn't pettiness. This was calculated pressure. They weren't just trying to annoy me, they were trying to wear me down. Piece by piece, tire by tire, call by call. Make life just uncomfortable enough that I'd give up. Sell the house. Leave quietly. Problem solved. It was psychological warfare, and I'd seen it before. This wasn't a neighborhood. This was territory. And Donna Wellington ran it like a mob boss in pearls. The next morning, I tried to say hello to an elderly woman watering roses at the end of the block. Good morning, ma'am, I said with a smile. I'm Daniel, your new neighbor. She jumped like I'd fired a gun. Her eyes darted toward the street, then back to her front door. I can't talk to you. I'm sorry, she whispered. Then disappeared inside. The deadbolt clicked like a pistol slide behind her. The others were no better. A young father washing his truck froze mid-scrub when I waved. Seconds later, he dropped the sponge and rushed inside. A teenage girl walking a golden retriever, Crow, said the street without a word. Even the dog looked nervous. These weren't unfriendly people. They were scared. And I knew that fear. I'd seen it before, in neighborhoods controlled by gangs, cartels, and community enforcers. Lake Vista wasn't under HOA management. It was under occupation. And Donna Wellington was the warlord in pearls. I wasn't just moving into a house anymore. I was walking into a hostile zone. And the war had just begun. He didn't knock. He just filled the doorway like a storm front in uniform. 6'3", broad shoulders, buzz cut, tactical boots that probably weighed more than my overnight bag. And his right hand hovered just close enough to his holstered sidearm to send a message. Sheriff Blake Wellington. I didn't need a badge to know who he was. Donna's voice had already painted the picture. 20 years in law enforcement, iron grip on the county, enforcer of HOA peace. Now he was on my porch. Mr. Rivera, he said in that slow, practiced cop voice designed to sound calm but carry weight. I understand you've been harassing my wife. That one almost made me laugh. Instead, I stayed still. Calm. Professional. I'd learned that posture long ago. Sheriff, I said evenly, I haven't harassed anyone. I've refused to pay $40,000 in fake fees. That's not harassment. That's self-defense. He took a step closer, into my space, just enough to block the sunlight. Fake, he repeated, tone tightening like a noose. My wife is a respected community leader. Those assessments were approved through proper procedures. He said it like he believed it. But I could already tell this wasn't about belief. This was about control. He was used to people folding when he showed up in uniform. Unfortunately for him, I wasn't most people. Then you'll have no problem showing me the records, I replied. Voting logs, legal filings, something. Gee, that explains where those numbers came from. That's when the mask cracked. Just a hairline fracture. His smile dropped. The weight of his eyes changed. The pleasantness drained out of his voice like someone cut the power. "Mr. Rivera," he said, quieter now, "let me explain how things work around here. Here it comes. Lake Vista is a peaceful, well-run community. People who disrupt that peace tend to find life gets difficult." There it was. The threat. Not shouted, not screamed, just placed, like a loaded revolver on a dinner table. I met his stare without flinching. "Is that a direct threat, Sheriff?" He leaned in, close enough that I could smell his aftershave. Cheap, strong. "It's just a fact, Mr. Rivera, about how things operate in this county." And with that, he turned and walked away. No arrest, no paperwork, just a warning, like a rattlesnake leaving a fang on your doorstep. I stood there on the porch for a long minute after he left, the silence ringing louder than any siren. He thought he'd rattled me, but all he'd really done was confirm my suspicion. This wasn't about a lake house. This was about a kingdom. And I was the first person in years to tell the Crown they had no clothes. Saturday morning was supposed to be calm. Instead, I pulled into my own driveway and found a blockade waiting for me. Donna Wellington was already there, standing at the edge of my property with a clipboard in one hand and her army of carefully selected supporters lined up behind her like scarecrows in designer clothes. 8 of them. All HOA loyalists, or more likely, people too terrified to say no. "Stop right there!" she shrieked, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "I warned you! You are not moving into this community without paying the required fees." I stepped out of my truck with slow, deliberate calm, picked up the first box from the back. "Mrs. Wellington," I said, voice clear and measure. "Ed, I legally own this house. Your demands are unauthorized, and I refuse." She was pacing now, the way a predator does when its prey doesn't run. "This is my lake," she snarled. "My community. I built this from nothing." More neighbors were starting to emerge, not to join her, just to watch. Phones were out. People were recording. This wasn't a disagreement anymore. It was a showdown. And Donna, for the first time, looked like she was losing control of the narrative. I kept moving boxes, slow and steady, never raising my voice. "Lakes aren't owned by individuals," I said, placing a box on the porch, "and communities aren't ruled by self-appointed queens." Her mask cracked, fully, finally. She spun toward me, shouting now, her hands flailing wildly. "How dare you say that to me? I built this place from the ground up. I eliminated the trash. I protected property values. You think you can just walk in here like you belong? You're nothing." Her voice was raw. Spit flew. Her hair was frizzing. Her outfit, once pristine, was rumpled with rage. Behind her, her loyalists weren't chanting or nodding. They were shrinking. The crowd watching, silent, focused, leaning in. Teenagers recording, children peeking from behind legs, elderly neighbors holding their breath like they were seeing a ghost being exorcised. The energy shifted. The air was electric. For the first time in 15 years, someone was standing up to Donna Wellington and not backing down. She could feel it too. That's when she reached for her phone with trembling hands. The nuclear option. "Blake!" she screamed into the speaker loud enough for the entire street to hear. "He's moving in anyway! He's trespassing on community property! He refuses to follow our rules!" I could hear his voice faintly, calm, confused. "Donna, slow down. I'll be there in 5 minutes with backup. She turned to the crowd like a dictator announcing reinforcements. You heard that. The sheriff is coming, with full backup, and you'll all see exactly what happens when people disrespect the Wellington family. She turned back to me, eyes gleaming. You have exactly 5 minutes to leave, Mr. Rivera, or you'll be arrested for trespassing, harassment, and disturbing the peace. I didn't answer. I just kept moving boxes. The crowd grew larger, the tension got heavier. Mrs. White, the elderly woman with the roses, whispered just loud enough for another neighbor to hear. Maybe this time, someone finally stands up to her. And someone had. But what Donna didn't know is that she was about to pick a fight with someone who outranked her entire kingdom. Sirens. Not 1. 3. Wailing, growing louder, like they were announcing a parade or an execution. Donna's eyes lit up like floodlights. She turned toward the crowd with a grin that said, "Watch what happens when you mess with a Wellington." "This is it," she shouted. "You'll all see now." Sheriff Blake Wellington arrived with 2 full patrol cars, lights flashing like it was a hostage crisis. He stepped out in full uniform, hand near his weapon, flanked by 2 deputies. The crowd went quiet. Phones rose higher. Blake scanned the scene like a battlefield general and zeroed in on me. "Mr. Rivera," he boomed, voice designed to carry, "I specifically warned you not to disrupt the peace of this community." I placed a box on the porch. Slowly, calmly. "Sheriff," I said, just loud enough for the phones to catch, "I'm moving into my own house, that I legally own." Donna practically lunged toward her husband. "Blake, arrest him now! He's harassing me! He's refusing HOA policy! He's trespassing!" Blake raised a hand, calming her like she was some unruly witness in court. He turned back to me. "Mr. Rivera, under Lake Vista HOA regulations, you cannot occupy this residence until required fees are paid in full." The crowd was buzzing now. Whispers, camera shutters clicking. I took a breath, then smiled. "Sheriff," I said evenly, "before I show you my ID, you might want to send your deputies back to their vehicles." Blake blinked. "Excuse me?" "This could get embarrassing for you," I said. That did it. His jaw tightened. "Let's see the ID," he snapped. I reached slowly for my wallet. Not rushing, not dramatic. Just deliberate, controlled. I wasn't pulling out plastic. I was pulling a pin on a grenade. But instead of handing it to Blake, I passed it to Deputy Smith, the youngest of the 2. A rookie, probably 6 months out of academy. He looked down at the card and froze. Color drained from his face. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. Blake noticed. "What's the problem, Smith? Just read his name and any active warrants." Smith swallowed hard. "Sheriff," he said, voice barely above a whisper. You need to see this. Right now." Blake marched over, clearly annoyed, snatched the ID, then went silent. The moment his eyes hit the badge number, the change was visible. The power in his posture evaporated. His face paled, hands trembled, mouth opened, and stayed there. Phones caught all of it. Whispers surged. Donna's smug expression faded. "What is it? What's wrong?" she asked. "Why aren't you arresting him?" Blake still hadn't spoken, so I did. "Sheriff Wellington," I said, turning toward the crowd. "My name is Detective Daniel Rivera, State Police, Criminal Investigation Division, 30 years of service. Badge number 7742. The gasp that rippled through the crowd was audible. Dozens of phones now fully recording. Donna stumbled back like I'd slapped her. You're a cop?" she screamed. "That's not fair! You tricked us!" I looked her square in the eyes. "No," I said. "You tried to extort me. I simply didn't tell you that I outrank your entire operation." And in that moment, Lake Vista, for the first time in 15 years, saw the queen begin to fall. For the first time, Donna Wellington had no words. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out, just panicked gasps and disbelief. "You're a cop?" she finally shrieked again. "That's not allowed! You tricked us! This is entrapment!" I turned toward the growing crowd of neighbors, letting my voice carry. "Lake Vista residents," I said calmly, "I didn't come here to expose anything. I came here to retire. But when someone demands $40,000 in illegal fees, I investigate." And the shift was instant. Mrs. White stepped forward, slowly, carefully, like the spell had broken. "Detective Rivera," she said, voice trembling, "we've been afraid for so long. She made us pay thousands we didn't have." Another voice called out, "She charged me $8,000 for landscaping compliance and threatened to fine me daily if I didn't pay in cash. She said my Christmas lights were unauthorized cultural decorations. She told my husband he'd be arrested for parking in our own driveway." Dozens of voices now, all at once, like floodgates opening. And Donna? She broke. Her voice shot back to full volume, but the cracks were everywhere. "This isn't fair. I protected this community. I kept out the trash. I made this place desirable. You can't do this to me. I've ruled this lake for 15 years. "Ruled," I repeated quietly. "Not led, not served, ruled." She turned wild. "You're all ungrateful," she howled, eyes wide, hair disheveled. "I built this place. I made the rules. I kept you safe." Her mascara was running. Her pristine white pantsuit was wrinkled, sweat-streaked. Her carefully curated image had collapsed into the one thing she never allowed anyone to see. The tyrant behind the clipboard. "You think you can just strip me of everything I've built?" she screamed at the neighbors, spinning to face them. "Don't you dare abandon me!" That's when Mrs. White stepped up again, and she wasn't trembling anymore. "You are the criminal, Donna," she said firmly. "You stole from us. You threatened us. You made us fear our own homes." The crowd murmured in agreement, and then Tony, a contractor, stepped forward with a thick folder in his hands. "I have records," he said. "She made me pay cash, no receipts, said it was for community improvements that never happened." A young mother named Emily held up her phone. "I've been secretly recording HOA meetings for 2 years, she said. "Every time someone questioned fees, she threatened them. I have proof." I turned to Blake, who still hadn't moved. "You knew," I said. "You helped her. And you threatened a police officer in his own home. That's not enforcement. That's a criminal conspiracy." He opened his mouth like he wanted to deny it, then closed it. He already knew. The game was over. Then Donna screamed again, voice breaking into pure desperation. "This isn't over. I have friends in high places. I'll destroy you. I built this kingdom and I will burn it down before I give it up." The crowd recoiled. But I stepped closer. "Lakes aren't owned," I said, voice like cold steel. "Communities aren't kingdoms. And you're not a queen. You're a criminal. And then I pulled out my phone. "I have recordings," I said. "Threats, demands, all sent to my department. Every piece of evidence they need to bury this operation." Donna froze. Blake finally exhaled. A man who knew his career just ended on a porch in front of half his zip code. And around us, the people of Lake Vista were realizing something they hadn't dared believe in 15 years. The nightmare was finally ending. By sundown, word had spread like wildfire. News vans lined the neighborhood entrance. Reporters jostled for camera angles. Drones buzzed above the lake. One headline was already running on local news. HOA corruption exposed by retired state detective. Blake Wellington, former sheriff, was arrested before nightfall. He didn't resist, didn't say a word. Just handed over his badge like it weighed 1,000 pounds. 20 years of authority, gone in seconds. Donna wasn't so quiet. She screamed all the way to the squad car, swore it was a mistake, accused everyone, called it a conspiracy. "I made this place," she howled. "You need me." No one believed her anymore. The real story came flooding in once the silence broke. Neighbors who had been afraid for years now stepped forward, armed with receipts, emails, bank statements. Emily's recordings of HOA meetings revealed years of intimidation tactics. Donna silencing any vote she didn't control, refusing to show financial reports, inventing fees on the fly. Tony had full payment logs, all in cash. Donna never allowed checks or cards. No paper trail. Until now. And Mrs. White, the same woman who couldn't speak to me days earlier, stood tall in front of a news camera and said, "She made me pay $300 a month in landscaping fines. I stopped buying my medication just to keep her off my back." The cameras captured everything. Not just the fall of the Wellingtons, but the rise of a community that had been afraid for too long. And that night, Blake tried one last Hail Mary. "Detective Rivera," he said, voice lower now, less confident. "Look, maybe things got out of hand. Maybe we can settle this between professionals." I didn't even blink. "You threatened a cop in his own home. Your wife stole from senior citizens and bullied families out of their homes. That's not something we settle. That's organized crime." He went quiet. And Donna? She played her final, desperate card. "You want the truth?" she shrieked, as deputies cuffed her again. "This goes higher than you think. County officials, commissioners, even state reps, they all knew. I have records." I raised an eyebrow. "Then that's a conversation for your lawyer and a federal prosecutor," I said. "And for the record, thanks. That just gave us probable cause." It was poetic. The very woman who ruled with threats and secrets had just confessed, on camera, to something bigger than anyone imagined. And for the first time in a long time, Lake Vista felt lighter. The crowd didn't cheer. Not yet. They were stunned, processing it. But there was something in the air, something new. Not just relief, hope. The tyrants were gone. And the neighborhood was free. 6 months later, I stood on the courthouse steps as the verdict was read aloud. Blake Wellington, 12 years federal prison. Donna Wellington, 8 years for racketeering, extortion, and organized fraud. The media called it the biggest HOA corruption case in state history. But for the residents of Lake Vista, it was something much simpler. Freedom. Mrs. White became the first democratically elected HOA president in 15 years. Tony was voted in as treasurer. Emily now runs the Transparency Committee. Every dollar spent is posted online for residents to see. No more secrets, no more cash-only community fees. No more fear. The first act of the new board, a full audit of every transaction under Donna's regime. Over $800,000 in illegal fees uncovered. Restitution issued. Victims paid back from the seized Wellington assets. Tony came up to me with tears in his eyes. "Detective Rivera," he said, "my kids can go to college now. That $18,000 we got back, it changed everything." Emily used her restitution money to build a playground and a community garden. The very things Donna used to justify her fake fees, now finally real. Mr. Peterson, an elderly vet, told me, "I was going to sell the home my wife and I lived in for 30 years. Couldn't afford Donna's demands anymore now. Now I can stay." It hit me then. This wasn't just a takedown. This was a restoration. The state police gave me a Distinguished Service Award, but in my speech I made it clear. This medal belongs to every neighbor who finally found the courage to speak up. I just lit the match. You all burned the tyranny down. Our story went viral. Over 2 million views in a week. The moment I handed my badge to Deputy Smith, the exact second Blake's face went white, became the most replayed clip. The comments were brutal. This is why you never mess with strangers. The moment she realized, see, he picked the wrong one. Priceless. Can this detective clean up my HOA next? Turns out, I just might. 12 states launched similar investigations after our case. HOA officials arrested. Over $3 million returned to victims. They're calling it the Wellington Wave. Congress passed new HOA transparency laws, now nicknamed the Wellington Reforms. Financial disclosures are mandatory. Arbitrary fees are outlawed. Board members require criminal background checks. Lake Vista? It's thriving. Property values are up. Families are moving in. There's a 6-month wait list to buy now, not because of fear, but because of fellowship. We have weekend barbecues. Kids ride bikes freely. Parents chat without checking over their shoulders. Just last week, a young couple came up to me at a cookout. "Detective Rivera," the husband said, "we bought here because of you. Our realtor warned us Lake Vista used to have HOA problems." His wife added, "Now it's our dream neighborhood. Our baby is going to grow up safe because you stood up." I smiled and nodded, but deep down, I knew the truth. It wasn't just me. It was all of them. Every neighbor who chose courage over silence. Sometimes, one match lights a fire. And sometimes that fire cleanses everything that was rotten. As I sat on my dock that evening, coffee in hand, watching the sun paint the lake in gold, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Detective Rivera?" a voice said. "This is Maria from Phoenix. We've got a situation with our HOA president. He's stolen over $4 million from elderly veterans. An 89-year-old Korean war vet asked me to call you. He said you'd understand how to fight this." I looked out across the water. Children laughed. Neighbors smiled. Justice had done its job here. But elsewhere, there was work to do. I took a breath, then said, "Maria, tell me about Phoenix. If you believe justice, could always find its way, no matter how powerful the bully, drop a comment below and share this story. Subscribe AS Stories.